Discover the incredible journey, how Mack trucks transformed lives and powered America's victory, in the heart of a small Rust Belt town. Filled with echoes of industry and dreams once bold, stood Jake, a prideful mechanic of 32. Raised by a father who clocked in and out at the local Mack Trucks plant, Jake felt the weight of history on his shoulders, a legacy of hard work and resolve that pulsed through his veins. The lessons were simple yet potent: perseverance, community, and service to others. Yet, as harsh winds of change swept through their streets, Jake grappled with a feeling that the American dream was slipping away, dimmed by the dim glow of dwindling finances and rising bills. His father had always believed in rebuilding lives through craftsmanship, and each story he shared about serving veterans and neighbors alike made Jake yearn for purpose beyond mere survival. One chilly afternoon, as the gray skies loomed heavy above, Jake found himself rummaging through his father's old shed. Amidst embedded memories and forgotten tools, dusty blueprints lay tangled beneath the clutter, blueprints for a truck design his father had meticulously crafted years before. A sudden rush coursed through Jake. The spirit of innovation and grit surged within him like a roaring engine igniting an old flame. Could he revive this legacy? Could he unite a community in defiance against the looming threat of plant closures that shadowed their livelihoods? The answer flickered like a beacon of hope. With newfound determination, Jake gathered a motley crew of neighbors, retirees filled with stories of muscle and sweat, single mothers juggling 2 jobs with fierce love, and ambitious dreamers yearning for their chance. Together, they envisioned the people's truck, a symbol of unity and resilience. Their ambitious spirits began to shine like polished chrome. Yet soon, media attention brought with it tides of skepticism. Dismissive investors showed up from the cities, their eyes cold as they mocked the town's small-town spirit, declaring they didn't have a snowball's chance in hell to make a difference. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day of the crucial funding meeting arrived, and hope draped every heart. They presented their proposal, stammering through the pitch, but the cold world outside felt foreign, a stark reminder of the chasm separating their dreams from harsh reality. The proposal was rejected, and heartbreak settled in thick silence. Tensions mounted as locals stood face to face with skeptics who refused to see their worth. Disappointment hung in the air, but it also ignited something deep within each of them. In this moment of despair, the community realized their strength. Guided by Jake, they began to build the prototype of the people's truck in his father's old garage. Laughter echoed through, threading their camaraderie through the gloom. Yet as enthusiasm rose, whispers of sabotage began to swirl like dark clouds overhead. Competitors sensed their progress, desperate to undermine their effort, and Jake's heart raced with doubts. Could they trust those dancing around them? Would their dreams rise, or be ripped apart? As he gazed at the half-built truck, its hopeful form cooling beneath weary hands, a question lingered in the air. Could they overcome the betrayal and forge ahead, or would the flame of their collective perseverance be snuffed out? With the weight of legacy and community heavy on his shoulders, Jake knew the real fight for justice was only just beginning. The morning sun filtered through the dusty windows of the old garage, casting long shadows on the floor. Jake felt that the warmth of the light was a signal and affirmation that despite the uncertainty looming over them, hope was still a force in their lives. The prototype of the people's truck loomed large against the backdrop of their collective dream, its unfinished parts whispering promises of resilience. As tools clanged and laughter erupted among the team, Jake stole a moment of reflection. Was this project just about a truck? Or was it something deeper, an expression of their shared battles? A statement of defiance against a world that had forgotten them? The weight of those thoughts heavy on his shoulders, he spotted Mary, the single mother who had been tirelessly working on the paneling. Her eyes sparkled with determination, and in her hands, He could see the mix of calluses and grace that defined their cause. "Come on, Jake. We need your magic touch on the engine," she called out, breaking his reverie. Her infectious spirit drew him in, and he smiled, the warmth spreading through him as he made his way over. Each neighbor had taken ownership of a part of the project. Their contributions intertwined like a sturdy rope, stronger together. But just as their spirits began to rise, an unsettling energy crackled through the air. A car rolled slowly past the garage, its windows tinted. Jake felt a chill slide down his spine. He recognized the hood emblem, the logo of a rival plant owner, who had taken a keen interest in dismantling their dreams. "Keep your heads down," he shouted, a wave of unease washing over the group. "We don't need any eyes on us right now." They quickly returned to their work, but the tension hung like a dark cloud, heavy over the garage. Trust began to wane. Whispers of sabotage became more frequent, breeding seeds of doubt and fear. That evening, as a storm rumbled in the distance, Jake gathered his crew for a meeting. He could see the worry etched on their faces, worry that mirrored his own. "Look, I know there are threats against us, but we can't lose focus," he started, his voice unwavering. "This is about more than just us. It's about our community. We owe it to each other to see this through." The group nodded, strengthened by Jake's words. Hope and resolve filled the room once more, but as he looked around, one serious face caught his eye. Eli, a retired mechanic with decades of experience, looked worried. "What if they come after us? What if they try to shut this down before it even starts?" Eli's voice trembled with uncertainty. Jake felt the gravity of that question. What if? The possibility of their worst fears creeping closer sent a shiver through him. He was determined not to let fear dictate their actions. But another part of him worried that his optimism couldn't keep everyone safe. "Then we fight back," Jake replied, a fire igniting within him. "We show them what a community can do when we trust each other." As the storm cracked open outside, letting rain pelt against the garage roof, he reminded them of their roots, their history of perseverance. The sound of rain blended with the sound of tools, a rhythmic heartbeat of hope pushing against the storm. But even as their resolve grew, Jake sensed a fracture creeping into their hearts. Would they have the strength to withstand the societal pressures mounting against them? Could the essence of loyalty and trust endure against a world so ready to tear them down? They still had a long way to go, and the darkness had only just begun to creep in as the night deepened. Jake found himself awake, staring up at the rafters, wrestling with doubts that haunted the corners of his mind. The weight of his community's dreams pressed heavily on his chest. Was he capable of steering them through the storm? Would their hearts reach the other side unscathed? Before sleep finally took him, a thought struck like lightning. The next step needed to be bold, a rallying cry to unite them against their foes. But what would that look like? And would it be enough to galvanize the town's spirit? Those questions lingered, waiting to unfurl as dawn approached. The following morning, the air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked earth, fresh and vibrant. Jake pushed against the garage door, letting the light spill in, welcoming the day with a sense of urgency. They had hardly scratched the surface of their mission, and it was time to elevate their dreams into action. The crew trickled in, their faces still shadowed by last night's unease. But as they gathered, a spark ignited. Jake saw the same determination in their eyes that had been there from the start. He could feel it, an unspoken bond that held them together, stronger than any threat looming outside. "All right, team." Jake clapped his hands together, gathering their attention. "Today is different. Today we draw a line in the sand. We need to send a message, not just to them but to ourselves." "What do you have in mind?" Mary asked, curiosity edging her voice. Jake's heart raced. There was urgency in his words. "We'll host a community gathering. A showcase. Let everyone see the truck and what we're about. It's time to turn our whispers into roars." A flicker of excitement illuminated the room. Eli leaned forward, his brows unfurrowing. "What if it draws attention from those people?" "Exactly," Jake replied, getting invigorated. "If they want to watch, let them watch. But they aren't just going to see a truck. They will see a community that refuses to back down. As the crew murmured their agreement, Jake felt something else shift within him. A courageous glow began to fill the void of doubt. Wasn't the community about facing challenges together, under an open sky, hand in hand? They spent the day transforming the garage into a makeshift exhibition space. Colorful banners fluttered from the rafters, and the prototype stood proudly, a symbol of their struggle and triumph. Neighbors began to trickle in, drawn not just by the allure of the truck, but also by the exuberant energy radiating from the team. The laughter, the chatter, it filled the air, cutting through the dense tension of the past few days. As twilight descended, Jake watched. The old garage was now alive, a heart beating strong. Children clambered around, drawing in colors of hope, while adults took turns sharing stories of resilience. Someone even brought a pot of chili, the scent wafting in the air like a warm hug. "This is what it means to be alive," Eli declared as he filled a bowl, his voice filled with cheer. The laughter echoed off the walls, creating a symphony of unity that resonated deep. Just then, a figure appeared at the edge of the light, a woman Jake recognized, one of the town's council members. Her arms were crossed, shadows falling across her stern face as she surveyed the scene. The atmosphere shifted slightly as whispers swept through the crowd, uncertainty flickering like a candle flame. Jake's heartbeat quickened. Would she support them, or would she add another layer of worry? The laughter dulled, replaced by a poignant silence. But as he met her gaze, he felt that fire within him flame higher. "Come on, folks, this is our moment," he suddenly called out, reclaiming the energy. "Let us show her exactly who we are." With that, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. It was a unified stand, a declaration that they would not be shamed into silence, that their dreams mattered. But as the night wore on, the tension of the councilwoman's presence grew heavier, like dark clouds threatening their newfound clarity. Jake felt a knot form in his stomach. Would solidarity be enough to shield them from the encroaching storms? A shiver of fear washed over him, even as hope flickered in the faces of his neighbors. As the gathering continued, Jake watched the councilwoman carefully. He knew the importance of this moment, not just for the community but for the cause they had built. How would this night end? What decisions would she make? And more importantly, would the winds of change sweep through their town? Or would they remain trapped under the weight of doubt and fear? He needed to find out, and soon. The threshold of their fight felt closer than ever, and the question loomed. Would they steer through the storm together, or would it tear them apart? The evening air hung thick with expectation as the gathering swelled, laughter mingling with the scent of chili and promise. Jake's heart raced, each pulse echoing the weight of the councilwoman's watchful gaze. She stood at the edge of their transformation, her face a mix of curiosity and scrutiny, but he refused to let silence stifle their spirit. "All right, everyone." Jake raised his hands, a wave of energy washing over him as voices quieted. "Let us hear some stories. What brought you here tonight?" A woman stepped forward, her voice trembling at first. "I came because I saw hope. I lost my job last year, and it felt like our little community was fading. But when I heard about the truck, it ignited something in me. It reminded me what we can build together." A ripple of applause broke through, and the tension eased just a bit. Jake felt pride swell in his chest. Hope was contagious, spreading like wildfire in the hearts of those gathered around. One by one, voices rose. An elderly man shared how he had struggled to find purpose, only to rediscover it in helping the youth practice their skills on the truck. A young girl spoke of her dream to drive it one day. Each story, interwoven with threads of resilience, brought the community closer, reinforcing the bond forged over shared dreams. Yet, amid the warmth, Jake kept glancing at the councilwoman. Her expression remained unreadable, like a closed door. But she was listening. He could see it in the slight tilts of her head, small shifts in her shoulders. He needed to reach her. They all did. As another story wrapped up, Jake invited the councilwoman to step forward. "We'd love to hear from you too. What do you think of this?" The crowd held its breath, eyes flicking from Jake to her. He sensed that this was a defining moment. Would she bridge the gap or reinforce the walls? Clearing her throat, the councilwoman stepped closer, her face softening for the briefest moment. I came here tonight mixed with concern and curiosity. I wasn't sure if a group like this could truly make a difference. She paused, the weight of her words hanging in the air. But seeing all of you here, the joy you have, it's overwhelming. I didn't expect this. A collective sigh rippled through the crowd, a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. They had made an impression, perhaps even cracked the shell of skepticism that surrounded her. But you must understand, she continued, her tone dipping back into seriousness. It won't just be this one gathering. Your actions need to resonate beyond this garage. Those in power need a clear vision. You'll have to prove that you can sustain this fight. Jake took a step forward, his voice steady. Then let us show you what we can do. Let us take the next steps with you, not against you. This community is ready to rise. Applause erupted again, swelling with fervor. The moment felt electric, a bridge slowly forming between them. But as she nodded, marking her acknowledgement, Jake sensed something. A trace of uncertainty clouded her features, leaving Jake to wonder if she truly believed in their capability. Night deepened around them, stars peeking through the scattered clouds, as if all of it, their hope, their resolve, could touch the heavens. But as they celebrated, an uneasy thought nagged at him. He could still feel the shadows of doubt lurking, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. Would they maintain their momentum when faced with the scrutiny of those who wanted them to fail? And what if the councilwoman's support was simply a seed, not yet ready to bloom? Just then, a loud clatter tore through the cheer, a figure stumbling in from outside. The crowd turned towards the sound, and Jake's heart dropped. As the figure stepped into the light, he felt the air still. It was one of their fiercest critics, a man with a reputation for sabotage, a frown etched deep on his face. What are you doing here? Jake demanded, adrenaline surging. But before the man could speak, a sobering silence enveloped the garage. The next few moments could change everything, and Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the brink of either a breakthrough or a collapse. The weight of the moment pressed heavily on Jake. The critic, a broad-shouldered man named Earl, took a few measured steps forward, his gaze scanning the room, taking in the faces of hope mixed with confusion. The atmosphere, once vibrant with stories and laughter, now felt like a taut wire ready to snap. Jake, you know who I am? Earl started, his voice low and gravelly. And you know why I'm here. Jake swallowed hard. Does it matter? He replied, his heart racing. We're trying to build something positive. Can't you see that? Earl chuckled softly, a sound that held no warmth. Positive? You think this is about optimism? It's nice to play pretend, but reality has a way of crashing down. He stepped further inside, the dim light casting shadows across his face. You want to change people's minds, but what makes you think you have what it takes? The crowd shifted restlessly, 1,000 anxious whispers bubbling beneath the surface. Jake could feel their eyes on him, the tension palpable. Each person there had come to find community, to share hope, and now they were staring at the embodiment of doubt. We may not have all the answers, Jake said, mustering every ounce of courage. But we have each other. We're ready to fight for our future. The community matters more than your voice of dissent. Earl's frown deepened, but in the depths of his eyes, Jake thought he detected a flicker of something akin to respect. Strong words for a group that doesn't realize how deeply ingrained fear runs in this town. You'll face pushback, believe me. People don't just give up on their comfort zones. A voice piped up from the crowd, a woman with kind eyes and a slight tremor in her hands. Earl, we're not trying to take anything away from anyone. We just want to help each other. Help? Earl scoffed. When has help ever come without a price? What you're building here is only as strong as its foundation, and I doubt yours is solid. In that moment, Jake felt a rush of determination. Fear may be a formidable opponent, but they had something stronger, purpose. He stepped closer to Earl, closing the gap between them. We might not have everything figured out, but you're wrong if you think we'll let fear define us. This community is ready to break free from the past. Just then, the councilwoman stepped up, her previously cautious demeanor now transformed into one of quiet resolve. "Earl," she said firmly, "perhaps it's not just about fear. Maybe it's time for us to let go of old grievances and start anew." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Eyes turned to her, searching for guidance. Jake watched, heart pounding, as the tide began to shift. The councilwoman continued, "What you're seeing here isn't just resilience, it's necessity. We've been ignored for too long, and this truck isn't just about food. It's about opportunities and voices." Slowly, she moved towards Jake, and together they faced Earl, a united front in the face of opposition. Earl's gaze narrowed, uncertainty creeping into his features. "You think this will last?" The crowd murmured, exhilaration blooming alongside their apprehension. "We will make it last," Jake declared, his words ringing with conviction. "It's not just a truck we're building. It's our lives, our community, and nothing can tear that apart." Earl looked among the faces surrounding him, the hope, the warmth, the shared determination, and for a moment, just a moment, his expression softened. But then he shook his head, his mask slipping back into place. "You'll regret this. Just wait." With that, he turned sharply and walked back into the night, the tension in the room thick as syrup. Jake felt the air shift, a mix of victory and uncertainty. They had pushed back. But at what cost? The crowd buzzed with energy after confronting Earl, yet an unease lingered. Would their resolve hold against the tides of doubt still rising around them? "Are we ready?" someone whispered in the back, and Jake nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure himself. They stood at the edge of an uncharted territory, and the next steps could either build them up or tear them down. They began to reconnect, sharing plans and dreams again. Jake gazed towards the starlit sky above. The future lay before them like a winding road, full of twists and turns. But just as hope began to settle in, a distant sound echoed, a siren wailing in the distance. Jake's heart sank. Was it a signal of a new challenge? A warning of the obstacles yet to appear on their journey? He turned to the councilwoman, who was studying the horizon with a knowing expression. "This isn't over yet," she said softly, a shadow crossing her features. What were they about to face now, and would they be prepared when the sirens returned again? Jake couldn't shake off the chill that crept up his spine. The sound of the siren grew louder, a piercing reminder of everything that could go wrong. Dread nestled into his gut as he scanned the faces of the crowd. Some were filled with newfound courage, but others carried an unmistakable weight of fear. "Stay focused," Jake urged, his voice an anchor against the mounting tension. "We've come too far to turn back now." The crowd nodded slowly, but he could see the doubt hiding in their eyes. What awaited them outside the walls of their little hub? They all knew Earl was just the beginning. The journey ahead was bound to be riddled with more challenges. And those sirens sounded like a reminder that not everyone would welcome their new aspirations. The councilwoman stepped forward again, her eyes locking with Jake's. "We need a plan," she said, voice steady. "And we need to stand together no matter what happens next." Her presence radiated strength, a lifeline amidst uncertainty. "Let us meet at dawn. We can strategize about how to respond if those in power push back," someone suggested, their voice shaking but resolute. "We're not here to just let them scare us." A wave of agreement rippled through the crowd, igniting a flicker of hope. Together they would carve out a new path. As the meeting dispersed, Jake felt heavier footsteps behind him. He turned to find the councilwoman lingering, a thoughtful expression painted across her face. "Jake," she said, her tone softening. Before she could finish, the siren blared again, this time closer. Their eyes met, both of them caught in the gravity of the moment. "We need to go," he said, urgency replacing uncertainty. They left the building, hearts pounding synchronously as they faced the open street. The neon lights of the food truck dotted the street like stars in their universe, offering a glimmer of promise. But it was fleeting, overshadowed by the reality looming ahead. In the darkness, a group of figures appeared, moving with purpose down the block. Shadows twisted among the glinting lights, and Jake squinted, trying to make sense of their intentions. Were they supporters or rivals? As they drew nearer, a familiar face emerged from the crowd. Sarah, a friend from the neighborhood who had always been a source of positivity. "Jake," she shouted, rushing to him. "Did you see the news? There's a protest forming. They don't want you to succeed." Jake's heart raced again, emotions spiraling. This was it. The fight was out in the open now, and they were on the front lines. He glanced back at the councilwoman, whose resolve solidified with every word Sarah spoke. Conflict was inevitable, but in that moment, sparks of determination ignited anew. "Then we stand together," Jake said fiercely, looking at the group gathering around them for support. "If people want to challenge us, they need to understand our cause, and we're not backing down. Our voices will be heard." A roar of agreement filled the night air, stronger than before. Unity transformed anxiety into passion, the thought of resilience making the burdens lighter. They were ready to rise, to show the world that fear wouldn't shackle them. As they turned to head toward the growing protest, the sirens blared once more. But this time they sounded like a rallying cry. There was power in numbers. There was power in their purpose. However, amidst the cheers and newfound excitement, Jake's heart remained heavy. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with trials both tangible and intangible. Doubt would whisper at their heels. The question lingered in the air like smoke: would they emerge victorious, or would they be swept away by the tide of resistance? As they approached the gathered crowd under the streetlights, a feeling washed over Jake, anticipation mixed with fear. Were they ready for what was coming? Would courage truly trump despair? He took a deep breath, whispering to himself, hoping the answer would find him in the heat of the moment. And then, as the silence fell, Jake clasped his hands, peering into the throng of supporters. "Let us show them who we are," he called out, a spark igniting beneath their resolve. But as they stepped forward, a figure emerged from the shadows, and each heartbeat slowed. Would this be a friend or yet another force against them? Jake took a cautious step forward, squinting through the dimness. The figure taking shape in the shadows was taller, with a confident stride that made Jake's heart race. As the light fell upon the stranger's face, recognition hit him like a freight train. It was Marcus, an old high school friend. There had been a time when they were inseparable, dreaming about bright futures together. "Marcus!" Jake shouted, his voice barely above the crowd's murmur. Relief flooded through him, but it quickly battled with confusion. The air seemed to thrum with unasked questions. "What are you doing here?" The tension in Marcus's eyes spoke volumes, a flicker of apprehension marring his features. "I heard what was happening," he replied, glancing around at their assembly. I came to help." "Help?" Jake's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? Have you sided with them?" No. Marcus held up his hands in protest, his expression earnest. "I just mean things are complicated. I work with a group that's trying to keep the peace. They're worried about how this protest might escalate." Jake's heart sank a little. "So you're saying we should back down? Let them dictate our choices?" Marcus looked pained. "It's not about backing down, Jake. It's about being smart. You know, I care about this community. But the people in power, they have plans. If they feel threatened, they'll push back hard. We need to be careful." The crowd shifted, uneasiness rippling through them. Sarah stepped forward, her hands clenched. "We're not causing trouble, Marcus. We're standing up for what we believe in. But what if standing up puts you at risk?" Marcus countered, his voice rising a notch. "You don't know what they're capable of. I don't want anyone getting hurt." Jake's chest tightened. The moment was heavy with the weight of choices, and it dawned on him that Marcus was right. Fear of the unknown could spiral into chaos, a dangerous game they didn't want to play. "What do you suggest, then?" he challenged, a flicker of vulnerability breaking his voice. "Do we just let them silence us?" Marcus's expression softened, and he stepped closer. "I'm not saying to silence yourself. I'm saying we need a more calculated approach. If we can build bridges, rather than confrontations, we might just persuade them to listen." Jake felt the fight within him start to wane, hesitating beneath the intensity of his friend's gaze. In that eye-to-eye moment something shifted. Jake wasn't just standing up against the powers that be. He was grappling with everything his upbringing had taught him. The crowd continued to murmur, a mix of support and doubt casting a shadow over their newfound courage. Jake took a deep breath, feeling the gravity of the situation. They needed to be resolute without being reckless. Maybe we can find a way to voice our concerns while avoiding a full-on confrontation. He began, the tendrils of a new plan weaving themselves in his mind. But if we do this, we do it together. A thoughtful silence followed, and Jake could feel the crowd hanging onto his words. They needed unity, not division. He glanced at Marcus and saw an ally ready to help steer them. Sarah spoke up again, her voice stronger this time. Then let us organize ourselves. Make sure everyone hears our message loud and clear. But we also prepare ourselves for any backlash. The crowd nodded, the rhythm of agreement rising like the morning sun. Hope ignited anew, a force larger than the sirens ringing through the darkness. Despite the uncertainty ahead, they were ready to shape their destiny as the night wore on. Jake took solace in the small victories, but deep down he knew they weren't out of the woods yet. He glanced back at Marcus, seeing the anticipation mirrored in his own eyes. What new challenges would emerge from this newfound path? They were ready to find out, but as the crowd surged toward the edges of the street, another figure appeared, shrouded in mystery, looming just at the periphery. Would this be a chance for dialogue or the catalyst for a clash? As the crowd grew restless, the figure at the edge became clearer, stepping out from the shadows. The air thickened with tension, whispers echoing around Jake like gusts of wind through the trees. What would this stranger bring? Jake's heart beat faster, a mixture of anticipation and fear coursing through him. The stranger moved closer, revealing a face etched with exhaustion. Her eyes glimmered with grit and determination, but there was something else lurking beneath. Anxiety, maybe? She had a clipboard in her hand, and it seemed like she was measuring their resolve against some invisible scale. "Who are you?" Sarah called out, standing straight and commanding attention. The crowd hushed, uncertainty gripping them like a thief in the night. "I'm Elena," the woman said, her voice steady yet vulnerable. "I'm here to understand what you're fighting for. I can help." "Help?" Jake interjected, skepticism coloring his tone. "How? Are you with them?" "No, I'm not," Elena replied quickly, raising her hands. "I work with a coalition that supports community rights and protests. I've seen what happens when things escalate, and I want to help you navigate this." The crowd stirred again, some nodding while others exchanged wary glances. Jake felt the weight of their eyes on him, searching for his reaction. He turned to Marcus, who was watching Elena intently, as if weighing her words. "What do you want to know?" Jake asked, curiosity edging out a bit of his doubt. Elena stepped forward, her expression earnest. "I want to hear your stories, your reasons for standing together. The more we know, the better we can fight back against the interests that want to silence you." For a heartbeat, Jake felt a flicker of hope. There was something undeniably powerful in speaking truth to power, in sharing their experiences. But doubt danced at the corners of his vision. "And what's in it for you?" he probed. She sighed deeply. "I believe in justice. I saw too many protests turn into chaos when voices aren't heard properly. There's strength in community. You all have something important to say." From behind, Sarah stepped forward, her expression shifting. "We have a lot to lose, Elena. It's not just about us. It's about our families, our future." "I understand," Elena replied, her eyes softening. "But we have to channel that energy in a way that compels people to listen. Fighting fire with fire doesn't always work." Jake leaned closer to the crowd, feeling their uncertainty mix with a renewed eagerness. A labor of love had ignited within him. "What if we share our stories?" he offered. "What if we pull each other out of our shells and speak from our hearts?" As he spoke, something in the atmosphere seemed to crack open, revealing an inner light ready to shine. He could see faces nodding, some filled with resolve, others with a budding hope. The familiar crackle of adrenaline pulsed in Jake's veins as he felt what it meant to lead, to inspire. He glanced at Marcus, who appeared relieved, almost grateful. "Yeah, Let us show them what we're made of, Marcus chimed in, infectious determination threading through his words. The crowd began to murmur again, a tide of shared thoughts and reinforcement. Elena watched, a hint of a smile gracing her lips, but just as excitement built, a low rumble thrummed through the ground, and distant sirens echoed once more. A stark reminder that their statement of purpose could meet fierce resistance. Jake's heart raced, pulse quickening as new thoughts crowded his mind. What if sharing their stories drew the attention of those in power, igniting conflict instead of conversation? Could they harness this momentum without tipping into chaos? Before he could voice his concerns, several figures emerged from the shadows, agents of authority, marching with purpose towards them. Was this the moment they feared, or the opportunity they desperately needed? The tension intensified as the figures in uniforms approached, their hard eyes scanning the crowd like hawks. Jake felt his insides twist, uncertainty creeping in. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about what would happen next. The sound of sirens faded into the background, replaced by the thudding of his heart. What now? Marcus whispered, fear cracking through his voice. Elena stood tall, her clipboard clutched like a shield against the incoming storm. Stay calm, she urged, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Remember what we talked about. Your voice is your power. Jake locked eyes with her, searching for reassurance. They might just be standing on the precipice of something bigger than themselves. But could they trust her? He shifted slightly, feeling the energy ripple through those around him. The lead officer stepped to the front, his brow furrowed and his hands resting on his belt. What's going on here? His tone was authoritative, command emanating from him as he surveyed the assembled crowd. Jake's mind raced. This was their moment. He had no right to back down now. We're here to stand together, he said, praying his voice didn't tremble. We want to share our stories. We want to be heard. The officer narrowed his eyes. A rally without a permit is illegal. You need to disperse immediately. His words were calm, but a threat lingered underneath. Elena interjected, taking a step forward. Sir, we're not inciting violence. This is a peaceful gathering. We're here to express our concerns? The officer sneered, cutting her off. You think expressing concerns gives you the right to block the streets? Jake felt a mixture of anger and fear surge within him. They couldn't just let them be dismissed like that. We're not trying to cause trouble, he said, trying to contain the storm inside him. We just want our voices to matter. Behind Jake, the crowd shifted, a low murmur rising like a wave as voices joined his. Complaints, fears, and hopes echoed out collectively. We matter. We have stories. Elena beamed with pride at the unified front, but Jake could see the shadow of uncertainty in her expression as she faced the officers. Could this turn dangerous in a heartbeat? The lead officer raised his hand to silence them. This isn't a negotiation, he barked. Just then, Sarah stepped up beside Jake. You don't understand what's at stake. Our families, our homes. We deserve to be heard. The fire in her voice surprised even Jake, igniting energy in the crowd. The officer looked taken aback, momentarily losing his authoritative hold. But he quickly regained control, glaring at Sarah. You need to leave or I'll start issuing citations. The crowd grew restless, their resolve shivering on the brink of fear and determination. Jake's mind raced. Silver linings danced before him, but they needed more than just words. They needed action. Let us show them who we are, Jake said, glancing at Elena. We won't leave. Not until they hear us out. The atmosphere crackled with electricity, as murmurs transformed into chants. We deserve to be heard. We deserve to be heard. The officers shifted uneasily, the calls echoing like cannon fire. But Jake's heart hammered louder. Was this the choice they were making, or was it the choice being forced upon them? Suddenly, the lead officer pulled out a radio, his expression hardening for the fight. Backup needed, he said, the tension spiking in the air. Jake's breath caught in his throat. What would come next? Were they about to face a flood of resistance? Would they falter, or rise and seize their moment? The energy around them was like a fuse waiting to ignite. And as sirens blared louder and more uniforms rushed to the scene, Jake had to wonder, who would stand with them when the dust finally settled? The wind howled through the chaos, lashing against the crowd like uncertainty. Jake felt the need for some act of defiance that could encapsulate their desperation, and just like that, a spark ignited in him. "We won T back down," he shouted, clarity piercing through the noise. His voice rang out over the shifting murmurs, drawing eyes to him. "Our voices matter. Together, we fought for this community, our families, our lives. And we're not leaving until they understand that." The crowd suddenly surged, a downpour of solidarity creating an unbreakable chain of resolve. "We are here to fight for our dreams," Jake cried, thrusting a hand into the air. And without thinking, others followed suit, hearts beating faster in sync. The officers shifted, uncertainty flickering in their gaze. They were used to stifling dissent, not facing a united front of hope and resolve. The chants rose in volume, "We matter. We deserve to be heard," echoing through the glimmering night. Elena stepped forward, a steadfast pillar amidst the turmoil. "This isn't just noise. It's our truth." Her voice was a beacon of clarity. "You can silence one voice, but you cannot silence us all. We will not be dismissed." An energy flowed through the crowd, physical and emotional. A warmth wrapped around them like a thick blanket, binding their hearts in a moment of shared understanding. Jake caught glimpses of pride on familiar faces. The retired mechanic Eli, brave Mary, and even those skeptical few who had once wavered in faith. But the lead officer, brow furrowed, took a step forward. "Disperse now, or we will enforce the law." Fear rippled through the crowd. Then, amidst the tension, Sarah took a deep breath and stepped forward. "If we leave, we are letting fear win. We are letting them take away everything we built. Right?" Jake shouted, desperate for the momentum. "This isn't just about us. It's about our kids, our future. We've worked too hard to let it slip through our fingers." Eli shouted louder, "Your actions today are vital. This is about protecting what we have. Don't be afraid." Strength breathed new life into Jake's voice, a fervor pushing him on. He looked around. Every eye carried a shared spark. "We won't leave until our voices are heard. Not just for us, but for everyone who ever felt dismissed." Just as the lead officer prepared to bark another command, the sounds of sirens began to fade, the cacophony of urgency transforming into a profound silence. The officers took a step back, assessing the flock. A flicker of uncertainty crossed their faces. It wasn't just a swarm of disgruntled citizens. It was a force fueled by determination and love. And then, unexpectedly, the councilwoman emerged once more, her presence a reminder of their own shared courage. "I stand with them," she declared, raising a hand in unity. "We deserve to be heard. This community is worth every voice raised." The crowd erupted into applause. A wave of renewed strength washed over them. Together, they formed a fortress against the storm. "Let us show them who we are," Jake shouted, and for an electrifying moment, it felt like they could move mountains. The officers glanced at their ranks, a decision brewing in the air, but something had shifted. Fear morphed into cautious hope. When the lead officer finally spoke, his voice trembled slightly. "We'll grant you a chance to express your concerns one at a time." The crowd fell silent, the realization dawning. They had carved space for dialogue, for truth. Jake glanced at the faces surrounding him. A tapestry of relief woven tightly with JOYS members took the floor, sharing their stories, the originals of struggles knitting into a narrative that echoed across the room. Jake felt a swell of pride. This was their triumph not just in words, but in spirit. The challenges that lay ahead would still be there, but in that moment, they realized the power of unity, of standing together as a community. As the hour wore on, and voices rang true, Jake felt lighter. They had turned fear into courage, dissent into dialogue, and doubts into dreams, and stillness after the last speaker's words. Jake felt the warmth of love flare within him, how their lives sparkled in the dark. And there, amidst the success and the uncertainties still looming, Jake made a silent vow. They would keep moving forward together. Let us keep shining, he whispered to himself. This is just the beginning. And just like that, their story, a story of transformation, community, and unyielding spirit, was written in the hearts of all who dared to believe in brighter tomorrows. As the crowd dispersed beneath the starlit sky, Jake knew they could weather any storm. Together, they were unbreakable. Folks, this is where you come in. If you felt that fire in your heart during the journey this community took, you need to subscribe right now. Don't let the moment slip away. Hit that bell for notifications to stay in the loop with our next exclusive stories. Also, drop a like now, show your support, and let the algorithm work its magic. And please comment your thoughts and feelings about the powerful ending. Your feedback matters. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. The world needs these stories, and you can be part of the change.